Sri Lanka's most powerful news brand.
The election is not far away when a candidate can recognize you across the street. A very good morning to you and welcome. This is Newsline. We are just less than 2 months away from another election in just than 3 years. We saw an election on the 8th of January 2015, 17th of August 2015, and now 2018, 10th of February in local government polls. What are the expectations of the public? To discuss all this and more, I have with me this morning a civil rights activist. He is also a senior banker. He is none other than Mr. Risripala Thendakon. A very good morning to you and welcome to the show. It's always nice to start off the day with Newsline, isn't it?
Yes, certainly.
So tell me, Mr. Thendakon, how united is the unity government? Let's talk about, first of all, about the current state of political affairs in Sri Lanka. How united is the unity government?
Yes, I mean this is a question that disturbs our minds to a very big extent. That is, they are governing together as two major parties, and they have declared themselves as a national government. And the constitutional requirements for enlarging the scope of the cabinet has been acquired by that measure, by calling themselves a national government. If they don't call themselves a national government, they can't have this number of cabinet ministers, this number of state ministers, this number of deputy ministers. So, my question is it just a ruse by the two parties just to enlarge or have a large cabinet and just carry on under the guise of calling themselves a national government? Is it a real national government?
But the people voted in a split government on the 17th of August 2015 because they wanted a national unity government, isn't it?
Exactly. The vote represents the thinking of the people in this country, because with a very hard fought election by the UNP, of course SLFP was divided, still they put up a fight together. They were together, and after the election only, you know, this division of joint opposition and all that formed. So it was a hard fought battle, and the people selected amidst that battle how the representation should be in the parliament. You see, they did not give a very large majority to any single party. The expectation is, as you rightly said, they wanted both major parties to join together and then run this country forward because of the mess that it was in.
But one thing is for sure, Mr. Thendakon, that this marriage is not working, at least on the ground.
Most certainly, this is something that we proclaimed, we predicted at the very beginning. But still, it was worth trying. I mean, there's nothing wrong in making an attempt to do this, you know, because the image that was propagated by the leaders, especially by the UNP, that wanted to sort of, after a very long time, a spell of 17 years in the opposition, they thought that this was an opportunity for them to come to the governing side of the government and not in the opposition. And then they made use of that opportunity to the maximum by, you know, calling everything the Lichavi season, the birth of a Lichavi era, birth of a national government, all kinds of things. And then the people really expected that expectation to materialize. But what happened? Today, they are contesting while being in the government together. They are now parties of the same government, sharing the cabinet. They are contesting an election for what? Not for the parliament, but even for the local government. So that shows to the general public, the citizens of this country.
But doesn't this in any way show democracy? Doesn't this show that the Sri Lanka Freedom Party also can contest alone under the guidance of President Maithripala Sirisena at a particular election? Isn't this about showing the strength of a political party?
No, it is not a case of each party showing its strength.
What is it then?
Now, they are in the government. The major battle is won by giving them the governing powers in this country. So they have won that battle. Now, this is a question of a national, local government election. Now, this is not unless each party considered it as a show of power for each party, show strength. You know, what is required by the people is not that. We don't want that party to show we are above the other party, we are having more power or whatever. What we want is the local government, the unity that is supposed to be there in the central government to be extended to the local government.
But isn't it a political tug of war at the end of the day? You see President Sirisena trying to challenge the United National Party, you see United National Party trying to challenge the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, and then you have the joint opposition trying to challenge both these parties. You have the Janata Vimukti Peramuna trying to come as a different force. You have several political parties also trying to contest this time around to see how they can expand their prowess in terms of their political will and political culture and the political future. So is this about a political tug of war?
No, you see,
must it be like that?
It need not be. I don't agree at all, because it is. I don't think that the president himself is inclined to to have a show of strength at this point of time. I don't think so, because that is not the view of the people. The president, it appears, is trying hard to carry on a very difficult unity, with all kinds of pressure, with all kinds of unexpected things happening. We get the impression that the president is trying hard to carry this unity forward. But for some reason or the other, the parties in the unity are not seeing eye to eye on that line. That is what it appears to us. I don't know what is the inside story. Because you forget the other parties. Why can't the two major parties that are components of a national government decide we have the interest of the country at first? We don't care about the future political strength or the support that we are going to display through the elections. What we want is to deliver something. We have the government, we are in the government, we want the local government to fall in line and do something for the people. What do we expect? Do we gain any sadistic pleasure by declaring or getting it declared that UNP got so many votes more, that party got so many votes? What is this? I don't think that the people of this country now have passed that stage.
When we really look at the present composition in Parliament, as well as the cabinet, you have a set of SLFP ministers, then you have a set of ministers from the United National Party. When you look at the composition alone,
yes,
you gather that those who are corrupt or those who are riddled with corruption, majority of them are from the United National Party. Let's talk about Lakshman Kiryal. You have a highways robbery that is taking place, that has already taken place. Then you have Ravi Karnaik, who is riddled with the bond scam. You have Kabir Hashim and Malik Samarikrama also part of this entire scam. Then you have Sagar Ratnaik, who has now been accused of trying to manipulate the police. You have Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe, who is the head of the UNP Parliamentary Committee, as well as the Prime Minister, who is also riddled with a lot of corruption at the moment. So the bad apple in this whole mix is like the UNP, isn't it?
You see, if you analyze it, what you said was the superficial situation of this whole affair. Mm-hmm. But if you make a deep analysis, what has happened, Shamir, is you take the division of these ministries. The important financial controlling of the finance of this country and the economy entirely is in the hands of the UNP. And who is answerable to the public? As a unity government, even the president becomes answerable to the president for no fault of his. The division of the functions, entire economy, where there is money, it is in the hands of the UNP. It has been so divided. I don't know at whose behest that happened, but it has happened. When we analyze it, we can see. Now, I have just one example to tell you. we have 2 or 3 very big funds in this country, financial. The Employees Provident Fund, the Employees Trust Fund. Do you know where these funds belong to, which ministry and to as persons to whom? The Employees Provident Fund has, by indirect manipulations, has gone to under the control of the Prime Minister. And do you know that even the ETF which was under him, when the redistribution of the functions came after the resignation or removal of Ravi Karunanayake, the ETF has been now transferred to Mr. Malik Samaravikram. So, I do not know whether there is a determined effort by the UNP to have absolute control over the economy and also over the funds that are available in this country. And for what use, for what ultimate objective is a matter that has yet to be explained.
So Mr. Clean is not clean anymore?
I don't see, because you know, the whole purpose of a national government, like what happened in Britain after the Second World War, you know, or to even win the World War, they sunk all the differences. There was no opposition. They all came together during the Bretton Woods period, the Second World War. I mean, they are the examples, of true democracy, where in a national crisis, at the time of a national crisis, how the parties sink their differences absolutely and then come together. That was not reflected in this unity. And it is worsened by this, at this juncture, by them declaring war against each other while remaining in the same government on this local government.
Don't you think it's a very sad state of affairs right now in Sri Lanka, Mr. Nakon, when it comes to the activities of politicians? You have the joint opposition parliamentarians who are now trying to say that this government is corrupt, but not talking about what corruption took place during their time. You have Mahindananda Alutgamage, Namal Rajapaksa, Vimal Viravansa. I can name the entire lot in the joint opposition who are trying to say, okay, we did not do anything wrong, but this government is corrupt. Isn't it a sad state of affairs in a country like Sri Lanka, unfortunately?
It is definitely a very sad state of affairs. The so-called joint opposition is trying to shortcut methods, you know, partly to avoid implications that they are having, and partly to see how soon they can disrupt this government and come back to power. I mean, these are the two things that is obvious, you know. They are not working with the mind to look at the problems that the people of this country are facing and what they have left over after their regime for the people to carry forward. They are not concerned about it. Therefore, to that extent, the joint opposition has totally failed as true parliamentarians, as people who love the future of this country and working for the future generations. They have failed miserably.
Sri Lankan politicians, if you really look at the last 2 years or so, the only word that they can remember is, I can't remember, I forgot, has that happened? You see this with former President Mahinda Rajapaksa, who was quite riddled with the Helping Hamantara scam, and now trying to say, I can't remember that I gave the Sri Lanka Freedom Party leadership to President Maithripala Sirisena. You have John Amaratunga saying, I can't remember whether Air Asia came to Sri Lanka or not. You have Ravi Karunanayake saying, is it so? What's happening? Must all these people who are above 70-75 years of age retire from politics completely?
I think it's more than the age. Now, we have had statesmen who are aged, but they were really mindful of the concerns of the people. But the names that you mentioned, for the sake of their survival, for their own benefit, these are people who tend to show that they forget things. Now, you have the best example now in this century, Ravi Karunanayake coming and telling before the Brown Commission that he forgot or he did not know how he moved into a flat in the apartment in the Monarch. I mean, even a child going to school was ridiculing this answer, no? I mean, if this is the extent to which the politicians of this country can fall down, You can't have any hopes in people like this. They should not have any place in the politics of this country by virtue of that silly statement. That alone is sufficient to declare them completely unsuitable out of the political scenario. I mean, if this happened in another country, they won't be able to face the society subsequently, you know. At any given forum, they'll be ridiculed. They will not be accepted. I mean, you expect the highest degree of, morality, decorum, and the status from a politician in a country. After all, they are representing millions of people, our future. Not only our future, the future of our future generations. So if such people come and say, I do not know how I moved into a flat in the Monarch, who financed it, who paid the rent for it. I mean, I'm just quoting an example. I mean, this is not the one and only instance. I mean, even Mahinda Rajapaksa's statement about forgetting Hambantota is equal, not any better. So all these things point to one thing. You see, true that they have, because the people voted them in, held these positions, but they are showing that they are not suitable and they don't deserve to be in that place.
Mr. Nakon, right after the central bank bond controversy took place in the 2015 February, when we as an organization, Newsfirst, took the position that there was corruption, a lot of people were slinging mud at us saying that we have an agenda, we are directing the story to another level, but we stood very strong on this story. I still recollect when Governor Arjun Mahendran called and said, yes, there was a malpractice, but I was not aware. We said, no, there was something that went wrong. We need to investigate. When the Prime Minister appointed a three-member committee, we said this is not fair, this is not independent. We pressed for a presidential commission, and that commission has been appointed now, and things are unfolding that people didn't expect. You have Sujiva Senasinghe, who's trying to say that he got information to write a book from Arjun Mahendran and Arjun Aloysius. Isn't it sad? You know, is this why the people appointed the government?
I mean, I think I must recall the instance where you had the courage of calling Arjun Mahendran and asking him, over the phone. I remember very clearly in one of these programs you mentioned
23rd of March.
Yeah, you played that piece also over the channel. So, I mean, those are instances where in this country, the media fearlessly, at the right moment, intervened in the right thing. And we are happy that you all are continuing it on that thing, on that tone and mode, still undisturbed, unperturbed about whatever people are talking. You know, the people whom you are referring to as the critics are, don't forget, is a small minority. That you cannot do away with at any time. But the large majority of people who love democracy, who love honesty, who love a period without corruption, they love you. This type of media intervention is loved by the majority. True, there are few people. There are people in this country who go behind, dirty smelling people saying, oh, sweet smelling. I mean, this is the way. How can you forget this? These are things that are happening in small minority. But you can see, adding to the confusion or the factors that we were discussing, how these politicians behave. You saw the behavior of the footnote group in the COPE committee. We were
all you and peers again.
The parliament, the supreme body. We have the greatest respect to the parliament, not to the parliamentarians. The parliament, the structure, we have the greatest respect. The people who wanted to safeguard our interest, who are our guardians, how did they behave in the COPE committee on this footnote thing? And now the revelations, as you said, in the Bond Commission have, without any doubt, cleared the air that they were pawns in the hands of a culprit. Pawns in the hands of a culprit. They were made to write books. They were made to make statements. They were made to disturb the COPE committees. They were made to stop the publishing of COPE committees. it went to the extent of even dissolving the parliament at a time when the first COPE committee report was to be tabled. So history has taught us an example, has taught us a lesson that these corrupt politicians, the moment they are cornered, they show their colors.
Mr. Nikon, in March 2015, I still recollect because this story was very close to the heart of this network. At one point, we sacrificed most of our airtime to reveal about the bond scam that took place in this country when all organizations feared to report on this. Yeah. So right now they're saying, yes, it has happened, but we were the only network who was doing so, and we were pressing for a forensic investigation. Since day number one, since the 8th of March 2015, we've said a forensic investigation is a must. We've had views of yours, Dr. W. Vijayawardena, Faraz, so on and so forth. But right now, all this information has transpired because a forensic investigation has come about. You have Sujiva Senasinghe publishing a book and speaking to Arjun Aloysius and Arjun Mahendran many times. You have Ravi Karunayaka and Ravi Karunayaka's wife speaking to Arjun Aloysius more than 600 times. And this is the very person who came to the Bond Commission and said, I met him a couple of times. That's it. Why?
You know, the revelations that have come up in during this Bond Commission are so strange, you know. We can't even imagine that such things happened in this country. And your channel correctly, at the right moment, mentioned the things or brought out the things that should be inquired into, how it should be investigated. You know, we spoke about a forensic investigation. We spoke about the need of a commission. We spoke about the need for the removal of people who are obstructing the passage of an independent inquiry. But nothing was paid heed to by the authorities at that time, other than ridiculing the media, yours, others and all, you know, by name, in a country where the freedom of association, the freedom of expression, the freedom of writing, all that was ensured and guaranteed, and in a country where people came to power by assuring those, ridiculing the media in the parliament when they are not having the opportunity to answer is a ridiculous thing.
10 more days, Mr. Nikon, for the Bond report to come out. The ball will be in the President's court. What would really happen?
I think, as far as, I think this is my own personal humble view. I went through the Gazette notification, appointing the commission, empowering the commission to investigate into this scam. In no uncertain terms, the President has declared in that Gazette notification that something wrong has happened. And, I mean, you paraphrase those, I mean, this is what the conclusion that we can come to. Number one, he has admitted that there is something wrong that has happened, and that it is a matter in the national interest that has to be investigated and inquired into further and reported on. Now he has given the framework within which such an investigation should be conducted and reported on. We are all awaiting that, you, me and everybody in this country. And don't forget, we are going to face an election. And this election certainly will have a reflection of the outcome of the bond scam.
So you mean to say that 10th of February people will go to vote and this will cost the United National Party a lot?
Most certainly. It has already cost the United National Party to some degree in the August 2015 election. They expected a huge victory. They expected a complete hands down victory with the divided SLFP for them to come all by themselves. Did not happen. And worst will happen in this election, because every person in the village, every person with some exposure to the media, with some exposure and knowledge, will know that a huge corrupt activity has taken place during this tenure of the office of this government, and that has happened under the control of the UNP as a party. Therefore, they will have to pay for it.
What's going to happen? What are the expectations of the public as far as the 10th of February local government polls are concerned? Do you think that the local council can make a change in the governance structure in Sri Lanka?
I think most certainly it can. Unfortunately, it is not happening the way that it should have happened. Now, the best I could imagine, in the most hypothetical thing that we can imagine of is, zones the people who are involved in corrupt activities, the two major parties of this country can carry this country forward. Now, if there is any obstruction to that happening from some quarters, then the only alternative left for the country is to strengthen the hands of the president, because he is the icon that was selected by the people to carry forward, to put an end to an era disliked by everybody in this country universally, not only in this country. He was the icon who was chosen. And if he is facing with some kind of challenge or threat for his continuance and the continuation of the expectations of the people must strengthen him, no? That's the logical conclusion. So this election is a very good example to strengthen the hands of the president, not for anything else, not because he is Mr. Maitripala Sirisena. He is the icon who was selected as an independent person to carry forward the wishes of the people to retain the democracy in this country.
Mr. Nikon, there is a story now, there's a rumor that you are also intending to contest the upcoming local government polls on the 10th of February. I'm just going to ask you, why would your candidature be different to the others?
You see, we have been, even now what we are doing now here is, we are voicing the opinion of the people, no, Shamir, through this media. Thankful to this media, you have given us a place to voice the opinion of the people. When people like us, I mean not only me, there are quite a number of people who are involved in such things. The public must remember, that is what is wanted in this country, to fearlessly facing all kinds of risks. All kinds of risks. I am a poor man. I have been charged for 500 million defamation. I can't even pay the lawyers. I find it difficult. But we are surviving. We are doing it for the sake of the people of this country, upholding the truth. So therefore, I mean, unfortunately, in my case, I don't want to talk personal things, but I have never worked my way out by myself. You know, I was made an organizer of an electorate of the SLP. 1982.
Electorate.
I was surprised when Mrs. Bandaranayaka pushed me into a room and told the people that this is your organizer. I am telling publicly, I never made an application. When I was made the chairman of Bank of Ceylon, I was equally surprised.
Thank you very much, Mr. Richibal, for joining us this evening. So, Monday you told me you're still not sure of contesting the polls, but now it seems you will be contesting the polls. May I ask which party?
It depends. Whatever party, I will say one thing. We have to strengthen the hands of the president for the sake of the people, for this country to move forward and never get back to that era.
Thank you very much, Ms. Thenukon, for joining us this evening, and also thank you very much for being fearless to expose the truth as far as the Bond Commission, the Bond saga is concerned, because I recollect there were a few people only standing with us as an organization at that time, Dr. W.J. Vardhana, you, and a few experts who were voicing their concerns and opinions, so thank you very much. And again, as I always say, if the people think you are ideal to be in the council, they have all the right to decide so.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us this evening. 9 days from now, just less than 10 days from now, the bond report is going to be published, and then the Bond Commission report is going to be in the President's hand. We will be waiting to see what actions will be taken, who are found guilty. Because at the end of the day, as a country, as the citizenry, we don't want something like the Helping Hand Mantra fraud taking place in Sri Lanka again. We don't want the central bank robbery taking place in Sri Lanka again, not the central highways. People cannot be held at stake because of the petty agendas of politicians. We are a country that is heading for change. We are a country that is moving for change. And if these individuals who are being found guilty, and they should be punished, and these individuals' civic rights should be completely taken off. And we have to ensure that Sri Lanka is on the right track. I leave you this morning with a quote, as I always do. Have a vision, make the right decision to vote, because it's your voice, it's your vote. Do not think that you can't make a change. It's never too late. Let's start today. Thank you very much and have a pleasant Wednesday.